You wake up, check your portfolio, and something's wrong. An exchange shows a mysterious withdrawal. A cold wallet meant to be offline and untouchable has been emptied. Across the globe, a flood of transactions starts moving through anonymous rails, mixing services and decentralized bridges. By the time anyone notices, billions are on the move. This is not fiction. This is 2025. In the first half of this year alone, North Korean-linked hackers stole more than $2 billion in cryptocurrency, the largest single-year haul attributed to one state actor in blockchain history. According to blockchain intelligence firms, this brings the regime's cumulative crypto thefts to more than $6 billion. How did it happen? Who did it hurt? And how do you trace money that was designed to be anonymous? Over the next 20 minutes, we'll pull back the curtain on the most audacious digital thefts of our time, the tactics used, the weak links exploited, the on-chain breadcrumbs left behind, and the fight to recover what was taken. This is a story about zeros and ones, and about politics, money, and power. Part 1: The Payload. What was taken? The headline is blunt: $2 billion plus in crypto. But headlines hide the method. The biggest single heist this year, more than $1.4 billion, hit the Bybit exchange in February. Hackers didn't just attack a single exchange account. They infiltrated a digital wallet provider, used that foothold to reach a supposedly offline cold wallet, and siphoned off 400,000 Ether. That's 400,000 units of a currency that powers everything from payments to decentralized finance. But Bybit wasn't the only victim. Other breaches, publicly attributed to the same actor group this year, hit platforms like LND.fi, WooX, and CDeFi. Chainalysis, another major blockchain monitoring firm, places the year-to-date figure at roughly $2.17 billion. Similar totals and cautions that dozens more incidents may be linked to the same infrastructure. Two things stand out immediately. 1. The scale. North Korean-linked actors went from opportunistic thieves to industrial-scale extractors. 2. The method. These weren't smash-and-grab hacks through reckless code. Many were surgical compromises of trust of people, vendors, and the connections between services. Part 2: The vector, how they got in. To understand how a cold wallet can be emptied, we have to understand two myths. Myth 1: cold wallets are invulnerable. Myth 2: exchanges are impregnable. Cold wallets are offline by design, private keys stored in hardware devices or in air-gapped systems. They are the gold vaults of the crypto world. But the vault is only as secure as the path to it. If the operational processes around the cold wallet, the custodial tools, the wallet providers, the human operators are compromised, attackers can trick the system into signing transactions or migrate keys out of safe storage. That's the creative leap attackers made. In the Bybit case, attackers first targeted a digital wallet provider, a third-party service trusted by the exchange. Once they had administrative access there, they were able to interact with signing processes or backup flows that touch cold storage. In other words, they didn't break the safe. They asked the guard for the keys. Social engineering made this easier. Phishing emails, fake IT support calls, spear phishing messages to executives, these are the same human vulnerabilities that have driven corporate breaches for years. But in 2025, the industry saw a shift. Attackers increasingly targeted smaller service providers, the vendors and custodians who sit behind the scenes, because compromising one of those gives access to dozens, even hundreds, of wallets and exchanges. Another technique observed across multiple breaches this year is credential stuffing and compromised API keys. When supply chains rely on shared credentials and automated scripts, one leak can open many doors. Part 3: The money trail, following blockchain footprints. Here's the paradox of blockchain crime: the ledger is public, immutable, and transparent, and that makes it both a tool for stealth and a trail for investigators. When funds leave a compromised wallet, they must go somewhere. Hackers route stolen coins through complex chains of addresses. They use mixers, tumblers, privacy coins, DeFi protocols, cross-chain bridges, and peer-to-peer exchanges. The goal is simple: obscure the origin and cash out. Yet every transaction is recorded. Firms like Elliptic and Chainalysis apply machine learning, address clustering, and pattern analysis to link wallets, identify laundering flows, and assign risk scores. They look for telltale signs, repeated interactions with known wallet clusters, rapid chunking of large balances into smaller transfers, use of specific mixing services, and finally, interactions with exchanges that have weaker KYC AML enforcement. In the Bybit theft, blockchain trackers found that while a large portion of the stolen Ethereum was moved into complex laundering chains, about 68% remained traceable. That suggests the attackers were able to obfuscate only a portion of their haul before investigators, exchanges, and law enforcement started flagging destinations and freezing assets. Two techniques deserve special attention. First, cross-chain bridges. These are protocols that allow assets to move between blockchains, for example, from Ethereum to a lower regulated chain where policing is sparse. Bridges can be exploited to split value across chains and make tracing exponentially harder. Second, decentralized exchanges and liquidity pools. Instead of going to a centralized exchange, which might freeze funds, criminals often use DeFi routes to swap tokens, split value across pools, and slowly launder through many small trades. Each swap creates noise and friction for investigators. Part 4: The Playbook, Typical Attack Chain. A typical North Korean-linked campaign in 2025 looks like this. 1. Reconnaissance. Gather intelligence on vendors, key personnel, infrastructure. Identify wallet providers, backup flows, and trust relationships. 2. Initial access. Deploy phishing, exploit public-facing vulnerabilities, or use purchased credentials from dark markets. 3. Lateral movement. Move within the vendor or custodian environment, escalate privileges, and access signing or backup systems. 4. Operational control. Initiate a withdrawal sequence, either by forcing a signing process or exfiltrating keys. 5. Cash out. Move funds quickly through laundering chains, chunk the haul, use bridges, mix, and finally convert to fiat through weak points. 6. Persistence and exfiltration. Cover tracks, delete logs, and leave access for future operations. This is not ad hoc. This is an assembly line operation built from years of experience and financed by a state. It's methodical, patient, and increasingly sophisticated. Part 5: The Why, Financing a Pariah State. Why would a nation invest in cyber theft on this scale? Because it is profitable and deniable. North Korea sits under decades of international sanctions. Traditional revenue streams are blocked. What remains is a shadow economy, illicit commodities, forced labor, and, increasingly, cyber-enabled theft. Cryptocurrency promises an avenue for liquidity that can cross borders with fewer intermediaries. United Nations reports as far back as 2019 estimated that state-linked hacking groups were stealing billions to fund weapons programs and procurement. In 2025, the pattern continues. One successful attack, a single exchange drained of hundreds of millions, injects immediate, fungible value into a state that otherwise struggles to earn foreign currency. But the picture is not purely financial. These operations also serve geopolitical and strategic roles. They test global defenses, build capabilities, and provide plausible deniability. Cyber operations can be scaled up or down, directed to cause economic damage, or run quietly to fill coffers. Part 6: How the World Fights Back. If the ledger is public, it becomes a battlefield for data analytics. Blockchain intelligence firms are now part of the front lines. They map stolen flows, provide attribution signals, and feed evidence to law enforcement. That work has practical impact. Exchanges with high compliance standards cooperate to freeze funds when wallets are tied to criminal clusters. Law enforcement agencies across jurisdictions coordinate to seize assets where possible. Sanctions lists get updated, and private firms publish wallet addresses and cluster identifiers so compliant services can block them. Still, challenges remain. Criminals increasingly exploit jurisdictions with weak enforcement. They take advantage of DeFi protocols that lack central points of control. They transfer value in tokenized forms, NFTs, wrapped assets, and synthetic derivatives which are harder to categorize and seize. Public-private partnerships are evolving. Exchanges and analytics firms now run white team drills with law enforcement. Governments sanction individuals and entities believed to be facilitating laundering. Yet, full recovery of stolen funds remains rare, especially when criminals move quickly and disperse across dozens of chains. Part 7 Technical Deep Dive: How cold wallets become hot. Let's zoom into that critical moment, how a supposedly air-gapped wallet becomes an outgoing transaction. There are several technical routes. Compromise the wallet software provider. Many exchanges outsource parts of their wallet management to third parties. If those services are compromised, attackers can intercept signing requests or manipulate backup flows. Compromise the key signing process. Even hardware wallets rely on a process to authorize a transaction. If attackers can spoof authorization messages, present false transaction data, or trick an operator into approving, the signature can be produced legitimately and the blockchain will accept the transaction. Supply chain tampering. Hardware or firmware altered in transit, malicious updates to wallet management software, or rogue modules within vendor code can all create backdoors. Insider threats. Employees with access to signing tools can be coerced, bribed, or socially engineered into approving transactions. What's the defense? Layered security, multi-party computation, MPC, to avoid single signing points, strict vendor audits, split custody where multiple geographically separated parties must sign, and robust process controls around any operation touching cold storage. Part 8 The Laundering Pipeline explained with examples. A typical laundering pipeline might look like this in practice. Initial split, large sum split into hundreds of smaller transfers across multiple addresses. Mixing services, funds sent to mixing protocols or services that pool and shuffle funds before returning them to different addresses. Cross-chain migration, send tokens to a bridge to move to a chain with fewer AML safeguards. Decentralized swaps, use automated market makers, AMMs, to swap tokens in small increments across many pools. The goal is to generate legitimate-looking trading volume that camouflages the origin. On-ramps, finally, small portions are sold for fiat via peer-to-peer exchanges or through complicit centralized exchanges with weak KYC, sometimes using mule accounts or shell companies. Investigators track these stages by identifying clustering behavior and linking known mixer outputs with other suspicious activity. That's how 68% traceability in the Bybit case became possible. Patterns, consistency, and operational mistakes by the attackers left signatures. Part 9 Attribution: Why we think it's North Korea. Attribution in cybercrime is notoriously difficult. But several signals point strongly to North Korean actors. First, infrastructure reuse. Bitcoin and Ethereum address clusters, wallet management styles, and laundering patterns can show behavioral fingerprints that repeat across incidents. Second, timing and targets. The set of targets, exchanges, custodians, high-value crypto infrastructure aligns with earlier campaigns historically attributed to DPRK groups like the Lazarus Group. Third, geopolitical motive and benefit. The consistent financial benefit to a sanctioned state that lacks legal channels for foreign currency provides a clear incentive. Finally, intelligence from multiple sources, blockchain analysis firms, law enforcement, and sometimes leaked internal communications often converge on state-linked threat actors. While absolute certainty is rare, the pattern of operations, the reuse of methodology, and the scale of theft across many jurisdictions create a compelling picture. Part 10 Human Cost and Market Impact. Beyond the headlines, these heists have real-world consequences. Exchanges tighten rules, which can slow down legitimate traders. Insurance costs for custodians rise. Startups face higher compliance burdens. Retail investors lose confidence. Some high-net-worth individuals and smaller custodians who are targeted directly for wallet compromises experience devastating losses. There's also erosion of trust in the entire crypto ecosystem. When billions can be stolen in orchestrated state-backed campaigns, regulators take notice, and the result is often stricter rules, slower innovation, and increased centralization as trusted, regulated custodians gain market share. Part 11: Lessons learned and best practices. What can the industry learn? Minimize third-party dependencies. Every vendor you use is an attack surface. Adopt multi-party signing and split custody. Don't let one person or one service hold the keys. Harden operational security, employee training, phishing-resistant MFA, strict change management. Monitor on-chain behavior in real time. Autonomous alerts that flag unusual transfers can beat criminals to the punch. Work with blockchain intelligence firms and law enforcement proactively. Transparency and cooperation increase the chance funds can be traced and frozen. For regulators, harmonize cross-border AML standards and close gaps that allow criminal cash-outs through weak jurisdictions. Part 12: A global hunt, cases where recovery was partial. There are success stories, too. In several incidents, aggressive cooperation between analytics firms and exchanges led to timely freezes of assets that ultimately prevented the full conversion to fiat. Crypto infrastructure providers who maintain real-time monitoring and pre-approved block lists can intercept funds before they are laundered. But success takes coordination and speed. The faster investigators identify suspicious destinations and the more compliant exchanges act, the more likely funds can be preserved. Part 13: What comes next? Expect more sophistication, but also evolving defenses. Attackers will continue to exploit human and vendor weaknesses. Social engineering is cheap and effective. Defenders will lean into cryptographic techniques that reduce single point of failure signing. Regulators will push for clearer rules around cross-chain asset movement and DeFi custody. The cat-and-mouse game of trace and launder will accelerate, better analytics versus more creative obfuscation. For individuals, the lesson is simple: custody matters. For companies, vigilance matters. For nations, coordinated policy and law enforcement matter. A world where billions of dollars can be siphoned across lines, moved through code and crossed borders in seconds is a new reality. Cyber theft at this scale is not just a criminal problem. It's a geopolitical tool. It funds regimes under sanctions. It distorts markets. It forces nations and companies to adapt or be left vulnerable. But the public ledger that enables this commerce is also its Achilles heel. Every transfer, every address, every pattern can be examined, clustered, and sometimes traced. The balance of power is shifting to those who can analyze the noise and act. If you are watching this, consider what you control: your own security hygiene, the vendors you trust, and the platforms you rely on. In a world where money moves as code, responsibility moves with it. If you found this deep dive useful, hit subscribe for more investigative stories about cyber threats, blockchain, and the real-world politics of digital money. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you think crypto will ultimately make sanctions easier to evade or easier to enforce? Which side will win the next digital escalation? And one last thing, stay skeptical, stay secure, and remember, every click has consequences. This was Crypto War: How North Korean hackers stole $2 billion in 2025 and the global hunt to get it back. I'll see you in the next one.